Welcome to the morning after opening week 2015 edition of the CFFL. I'm your host today, and I will be probably every week unless someone else volunteers to take a week here and there. We'll go over the action of the week. It was a low-scoring week in the NFL, so we saw scores a little bit down from last year, although the top fantasy teams this week still had pretty good points. I think it was right about on the same as last year, but it seemed like the games were a little lower scoring this year, so we'll get into the action right now. We'll take a look at last year's champion first. Last year's champion fell to the DK's Kongs, 55 to 50.5. Matt Forte led the Kongs with 15 points. Bad news for the Kongs, so Des Bryant is out anywhere between 4 to 6, and now it's looking like more like 8 to 12. So in at least a month, probably 6 weeks, probably minimum. Horn Dogs were led by Antonio Brown, but it wasn't enough as they fell to the Kongs. Last year's other Super Bowl team, the Bone Storm, was in the upset of the week as they were favored by 13 but lost by over 50 points. No players in double figures for the Bone Storm. Black Dingoes were led by Aaron Rodgers, 17 points. The Cardinals took down the Garbage Men, 85 to 53.5. Cardinals did get high points for the week. Gronk and Julio combined for 42.5 points. Seahawks defense for the Garbage Men had 16. Team Price is Right was really struggling after Sunday night, but ended up having a lot of points on Monday night. Surprisingly not led by his first-round pick, Adrian Peterson, instead led by Carlos Hyde, as they fall to the Bruisers, 73.5 to 45. The Bruisers led by a big 2-touchdown performance from DeAndre Hopkins as they get out to a 1-0 start. The Gargoyles took down the Little Big Men, 76.5 to 64.5. Chris Ivory had 16.5 points for the Gargoyles, almost hitting 100 yards. And Andrew Luck had 14.5, and not terrible, but probably disappointing for the Little Big Men that he did not have any more points. And finally, this week we also saw the Badgers take down one of the newbies, the Bucks, 80 to 67.5. The Badgers were led by Carson Palmer, one of the last quarterbacks taken in the draft, but he's starting for him. He had a huge week at 19.5 points. Tony Romo had 20 for the Bucks as they fall in their first CFFL matchup. So the two new guys did struggle this week. The two Super Bowl teams last year did struggle. Over the last 6 years, only two teams who were the Super Bowl loser returned to the Super Bowl. One won it. This guy did win it after Bites' tough beatdown of me in the Super Bowl that year on Colin Kaepernick's garbage time touchdown. Still stings, Bites. And another one, the Fighting Sasquatches, returned to lose 2 straight Super Bowls like his Bills teams that he loves so much also did. Taking a look now at the player of the week. There was a lot of guys to choose from this week, though. It went to Gronk. 3 touchdowns, 94 yards, so he had 22.5 points. Also consideration to Carlos Hyde, Julio Jones, Tom Brady. Tony Romo also had a good week. So you had a lot of guys that had good weeks this week, but the receivers kind of dominated. Walk of shame this week is to the injured receivers. There's a lot of them out there. Like Des Bryant, like I mentioned earlier, anywhere between 4 and 12 weeks for the Kongs. T.Y. Hilton for the Gargoyles, 1 to 3 weeks it looks like. Deshaun Jackson and Mike Evans. Deshaun Jackson's out, it looks like 2 to 3 weeks. Mike Evans did not play this week. So a walk of shame within a walk of shame to the Garbage Men for letting Mike Evans play and getting a 0 this week. And we'll get to the gripe right now. As you can see, that's still a picture from last year of his dynasty. He is the back-to-back Jim Shavina Consolation Belt winner. So we can get to the gripe now. Well, apparently that didn't work. Looks like the Patriot radio broadcast got in the way of that. So next week we'll have to get a true gripe from the Gargoyles because technical difficulties got in the way of that one. And still giving a shout out to Breaking Bad with the Yo Bitch free agent pickup of the week. This week it is Marcus Mariota with 20 points. Will he be the top free agent pickup? I don't know. There's a couple running backs out there, as always, as you know, in this league. That'll probably be up there, but Mariota did have a hell of a first week, torching the Buccaneer defense painfully for me. for 20 points. Looked very sharp. And finally, this week we'll take a look at the top games of the week next week. Next week sees 2 games that feature the battle of 1-0 teams. The Badgers take on the Dingoes, both pulled off wins this week, and also the Bruisers take on the Gargoyles, both 1-0 teams. And just a reminder, last year's playoff teams that ended up making the playoffs ended up going 4-2 in week 1. I was one of the teams that won in week 1 but did not make the playoffs. So if you're disappointed about your team or you're thinking your team is unstoppable after 1 week, I thought that last year after Matt Ryan, I looked, had 23 points. Then his entire offensive line got hurt, and Julio Jones got hurt, who was also on my team. And Cordero Patterson had a big week for me, week 1, and then, the rest of the year kind of fell out of favor there. So temper your expectations, but if you won, you're undefeated right now. Maybe the first ever team to go undefeated, right? So best of luck to everyone. I will see you next week, and good luck in the week ahead.